Good day, everybody. So thank you for joining us today. And I thank you for being here with us, because really this is the beginning for you to check out who TYT is and who we are as investors, as trainer, and like Mike as a strategy coach, and Weddy as a student ambassador. We all follow the same path. I started as a student and learned about investing, gradually reaching my goal to be financially free. And first thing first, as investors, we do everything legally according to what our power team members said to us. So disclaimer, even though I'm not a financial planner, tax accountant, lawyer, regardless, I'm here to talk to you as an investor. So put your investor's hat on and make sure you reach out to your power team members. Even though you, as an investor, should know and learn how everything works and how to speak to your power team members. So for example, your accountant, you might have different accountants. For example, you might have litigation accountant, depending on where you are, accountant who can take care of your personal tax and your corporate tax. Personal decision, I personally have an accountant looking after my personal tax and a corporate accountant. Lawyers, you could have corporate accountant, real estate closing accountant, and sometimes they focus in different markets as well. There are a couple I haven't named here, so depending on the strategies you're focusing on or plan to focus in. For example, who would you need if you need to fix your property? So I see most people are still logging in right now. Weddy, who would you need? Now you're looking at building and fixing.
Contractors, handyman.
Contractors. And by the way, in different real estate markets, you might need different realtors as well. Realtors are very area specific because even within a few blocks where I live, there are different realtors that focus in different markets. Once you get into, say, commercial buildings, you might also have commercial realtors or mortgage brokers on your team as well. So again, we're here to educate as professional investors. You don't have to be the smartest person. However, remember to leverage other people's wisdom and make sure you leverage my time, leverage the team's time, and you're investing your time here as well. So make sure you do that. It doesn't matter if you're not the strongest person. For example, contractors, leverage their knowledge, leverage their strength. I'm not even able to lift a couch myself. So make sure you have the team. Usually the people who are the most analytical people you probably have heard of analysis paralysis, and turn it to a strength. People like that, they usually think about things you might not have thought of. So leverage their way of analyzing things. If you're none of the above, that's totally fine. You're here to leverage and put the team together. And that's what you do here. And I do want to remind you that us as mentors, we're also part of your power team. We're here to check your blind spots. If you can find everything on the internet or on YouTube, perhaps you think you could do that. However, if you really want to run fast with us. And this is what we do.
Beat me, hate me, you can never break me. Will me, thrill me, you can never kill me. Chew me, sue me, everybody do me. Kick me, kite me, don't jump like a bite me. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.
So again, think about how fast you want to run. And perhaps you're thinking about the 20-year plan. Yes, in a lot of cases, people are focusing on 40-year retirement plan. And I'm sure you're here because you want to speed up the process right now. A few things to get you started if you want to set yourself up for success. Number one, focus. So I highly encourage you to turn your cameras on. If you're driving and if it's not safe for you to turn the camera on, I totally understand that. At the same time, if you want to learn, participate. And you're here to acquire knowledge. I get that. Because once we acquire knowledge, you feel the satisfaction of learning. I do that every day. And also, I know a lot of us are focusing on learning and reading a book every day. So put in the chat if you have a book that you're reading right now and you want to share it with everybody. It's something that you think you really learned a lot from somebody's experience for 20 years, and they condense it in a book. So you can listening to it on Audible, read about it in a week, a month, and really it's when you apply the knowledge that brings you the fulfillment. And I do want you to remember to take yourself to the next level. You can read all the slides, call to action. If you really want to have all the slides, you can take a picture right here or reach out to one of us. We'll send you the slide. That's number one. You can read all the slides. You can hear the words, turn up the volume. I speak pretty loudly. And if you can hear me well, turn up the volume. See it. So I want to see you too. Turn on the camera. Or if you just want to read through the slides and see what we're presenting here, this is really a safe environment. So you don't have to make all the mistakes. And you can see what other people are doing as well. Use the examples. A lot of the examples we use here is based on our own deals. And I simplify the numbers just for you to digest. Participate, because really it's about you. Let's hear what you want to learn and where you are right now. And I'm sure a lot of us here are parents. Perhaps you're also being an example for people around you. So if you're taking action, I know that a lot of the times we preach, and we're kids once ourselves. How likely are you going to listen to your parents all the time? However, I'm sure if you see what your parents are doing, and you're also here to set yourself as an example. If people see what you're doing by action, you're really taking it to the next level. When we talk about legacy as well, it doesn't matter if people inherit a lot of money. I think it's how you act and what you have done throughout your life that people will remember. Take it to the next level. If there's anything you learned today and you're so excited about it at the end, share it with somebody. Share it as if you're teaching them the knowledge. Perhaps you're already investing. So I do want to hear what you're doing and why you're here as well. Participate, and that gets you to the 90%. You not only talk about you want to invest in real estate, you're actually doing it. And by taking the step to learn, we talk about how do you eat an elephant? It's a chunk at a time, a small bite at a time. Same thing with the knowledge and with everything you learn. I want to also emphasize one thing. You're here with me for an hour and a half. You're here with Mike and Weddy and myself on the team for an hour and a half. As much as I want to give you everything, we're going to have a sneak peek of 3 main strategies today. Think about how you want to put it in your tool belt. If you really want to learn more, the next step is to go into the workshop for 3 days. And I want you to have fun. Because most importantly, how do people remember everything? People don't always remember what you learned. Perhaps you don't remember your grade 5 teacher. If it's somebody that you met, somebody who's great, you'll remember how much fun you had with them, with your classmates, or a teacher that made you feel really special. Because people always remember how they feel. If you're having fun, I'm pretty sure you will remember better what you learned today and how you feel. Even though it is virtual, I love it when we're in 3D and we actually see each other. However, the benefit of being here is that, hey, you could be anywhere. There's no reason why we are not able to learn. We have location freedom. And I get that. Some of you are working right now. And some of you might have that time freedom and listen to it. At the same time, try to absorb as much as you can. So by listening, by participating, by taking action to the next step, if you have no idea what to do, just follow step by step. And we actually take you along the journey as to how we ourselves take action and go about it. I understand that whenever we take action, there's a reason for us to do that. So perhaps it's fear. You're afraid of the what ifs. That's great. That's the reason why a lot of people want to acquire knowledge. So even though we cannot cover 100% of all the risk or all the possibilities out there, at least you know in different scenarios, how do investors act? Number 2, motivation. being an entrepreneur is so hard sometimes. And before we started, I was just talking to Weddy about sometimes entrepreneurs forget about time because we do everything ourselves. We forgot about Thanksgiving. We forgot if it's Wednesday or Thursday today. And when you're sitting there analyzing deals all by yourself, sometimes you need that little motivation. So if that's what you're looking for, let me know. That's why you're here. And knowledge. Your reason for getting knowledge could be different. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes people just love that satisfaction of acquiring knowledge. It's totally fine if that's why you are here. And the next one, resources. I'm totally fine since I've done the same thing, followed the same path. If you're leveraging our time, our knowledge, and ultimately all the strategy we talk about involves leverage other people's money. I'm sure some of you have saved us some money. When I started, I was already 40. So I saved up some money to get myself started. If you want to scale at one point, as an investor, you have to understand OPM, how to leverage other people's money. So if you haven't thought about leveraging, and there's one video clip on YouTube, it's called Debt is Money or Money is Debt. Watch that, because really there's no such thing as currency or money anymore. Everything is debt, which means even the cash you're holding, that's the government leveraging other people's money at the same time. So I'm going to pull the polls out because I just want to know why you're here, so I can tailor it more to what you're looking for. So put in the answer, and I do want to see why you are here. Thumbs up if you can see my screen and you're able to see the poll. Thank you. It's okay if you want to think about it a little bit. Okay, I'll give you another 5 seconds to come up with one description that describes the best why you're here today. By the way, I also want to acknowledge that a lot of people are watching this on YouTube as well. If you happen to be working or not available at this point, I'm happy that you're watching this on YouTube. At the same time, at Trust Your Talent, there are a lot of people supporting you right now. So if you're watching this and you want to get the slides, or if you have question, you can reach out to us and through the tyttrustyourtalent.ca. You can speak to one of our strategy coaches. So today, Mike, as a strategy coach, he's here on duty and he's here with us. He's going to share some of his knowledge and his background. He does have a lot more to share. So when you see him at the workshop in person, make sure you tap Mike on the back and ask him about his stories. A lot of stories to share. So I'm going to share results right now. If you're able to see the results, again, give me a thumbs up. All right. So most people are here to obtain knowledge. You think education is important. Perfect. Action. I'm glad that you're taking action. If this is your first stop, give yourself a pat on the back. It's weekday. I get that. Perhaps you have to carve up a time slot on your schedule to be here with us. So only one person said fear. All right. That's good. Then there's no reason not to take action, because fear is usually what's stopping us from going forward. And I happened to come across something this morning I do want to share with you. So every morning I listen to something inspirational to get myself started, whatever that is for you. Perhaps it's to work out and take a cold shower to wake yourself up to start the day. So I heard something about growth today. It's like the stock market. As I mentioned, being an entrepreneur sometimes is lonely. And if you're looking at your growth, sometimes we slack a little bit. So your growth pattern is also like this, a dip and up, a dip and up. If you're learning already, taking action, along with fear and motivation, is all part of it. Your growth might dip a little bit deeper before you pick it up again. Usually when it's really going down, it's when you feel your fear. So when you're afraid, you go back down. You question yourself, you procrastinate. And then you're motivated, then you go back up again. So to make sure your dip and going down is not as far as you want it to be, make sure you constantly remind yourself and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. We always say, hey, sometimes we're wondering, what's going on? I feel comfortable right now. You don't feel challenged. At the same time, make sure there's enough motivation for you to go forward. Just something I remembered and I do want to share with you. So if knowledge is what we're focusing on today, you're in the right place because we're going through three different strategies. At the same time, I want you to have a blueprint as to how you want to get started. It's really pretty simple. And Mike, Weddy, myself, and some of the existing students here, Sarah, Mike, we're already on the same path. I started exactly the same way. I went to the workshop. I started investing. And I thought, okay, I want to continue to be in the community. So like Weddy, I was a student ambassador myself. That also gave me the opportunity to constantly listening to what's the update, what's out there. And I don't know what your why is. You can definitely share that with me and with your strategy coach. Once you have reached a certain financial level, perhaps not financially free yet, I'm sure all of us have the urge to give. Either it's giving to your family, your kids. There are easiest why, I would say. We're lucky to have that as a very big why. And if you want to be the person that's having the ability to give, there's so many opportunities out there. Perhaps for you, it's your church, your religion, or a cause that's really dear to your heart. So perhaps you're thinking about why, and you're not sure what your whys are yet. You can dig a little bit deeper, see how you feel. So again, this is an open environment. You're safe. You're not going to lose money being here. You can test drive with us. So if you haven't decided what you want to do, I'm taking you step by step. And Mike's job here is also taking students step by step. That's why we call it blueprint. So if you haven't done that, take a picture of the QR code. Even if you have to fly, I actually love to travel. So if you're in, say, for example, Vancouver or Toronto, like myself, you can travel to Edmonton and Calgary. These are very popular markets right now. And at the same time, you can also investigate or see if it's a good market to do your due diligence in. And then you'll also meet power team members or investors in the market like Weddy here. So if you take a QR code and decide that, hey, that's the next step I'm going to take, at the same time, there's always a connect or networking event on Saturday. So this time in Edmonton is slightly different because we also have existing students or students already in the events training group being there in Edmonton. So they're having a field trip. You can meet a lot of people in the community as well. I see that part of the reason people are here, besides acquiring knowledge, I put it under the same category. Networking, leverage other people's money, leverage my knowledge, my time, and also network. Network also means that you network and obtain access to what other people have available. We don't usually ask you how much money do you have to invest. We ask, what do you have access to? Do you have access to even your joint ventures money or bank of love, your parents, whoever it is? Again, your network also expands your access to resources as well. Okay, so if you put in Mike or Brooke as your coupon code, Mike or Brooke, or you can put in TYT Rocks, you will get additional discount to join. Just because you're here today, you already invest in your time. So Mike here recorded a video just to give you an idea what it is like.
Anyone can buy a property, but not everyone can succeed. They say it takes 10 years to master a craft, but with our framework, you can master financial freedom in 1/10 of the time.
I found TYT. I went to their first webinar, and at the end of it, I was pretty moved. I booked that flight, headed to Edmonton to find out if these people were real, if it was what they say it was. Other groups are completely different, and the community is made up of everyday, regular people who just want to do better. They're trying to improve their lives. They're trying to improve the lives of their children, the people around them, and everyone's so giving. The value they provide to each other and to themselves is unmatched.
And again, I do thank you for being here and checking us out. Ken here, he's also a student ambassador. He is from Toronto, by the way. So he checked out our workshop in Edmonton at the time. And everybody is following the same path. None of us came from money. At the same time, I do want to remind you that even though we said you don't have to wait 10 years, it is getting rich step by step. It's not about getting rich the next day scheme. So Mike here will share his journey with us. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Brooke. It's great to see some cameras on, but I know we still have quite a few of you with cameras off, so don't be shy. Brooke doesn't bite, not over the camera, maybe way back when, but yeah, if we can get our cameras on, it's always good. She said earlier, those who are silent, Theo, great job, buddy. Those who are silent are broke investors. But anyways, I'm a strategy coach. I'm a father. I'm a husband, a hockey coach, health enthusiast. But I wasn't always that. Here's a photo of my family back in Tilbury, Ontario. Are any of you guys familiar with Tilbury, Ontario? Near Windsor? Windsor, Ontario, maybe? 4 hours from Toronto. Anyways, yeah, so that's where I was born and raised. And you know what? It was just to give you a bit of insight about my background. Like I said, I wasn't always an investor. I grew up in a small town. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but I, didn't understand investments, didn't understand what it meant, was never really talked about. Most of the time, money is just not a topic at the table. And I went to college, got a business background, and was wanting to climb that corporate ladder. And I was able to do that. I had a good career, 6-figure income. However, I was living for the weekend and very much spending way more than I was making. And by doing that, I found myself kind of dwindling in the terms of being overworked, overtired, mostly because it was self-inflicted. And I had to kind of take a look at my life and even my circle for that matter, and understand that they weren't necessarily picking me up. If anything, they were dragging me down into a very slippery slope. But then that did all change. I did become a father, and that was my youngest. Anyways, ended up, long story short, I knew I had to make a change. I sat in a workshop very similar to the one that we're going to be hosting in Edmonton and Calgary. I did that back in 2018 and got educated, read some books, got a mentor, and fast forward to today, we invest in several provinces, utilizing several strategies, and to name a few: lease options, distressed properties. We do a lot of creative financing, joint venture structuring, paper asset investing, self-directed RSP lending, just to name a few. We've been able to transition my wife when we had our second born, which was, he's 4 years old now. So we transitioned my wife from a good salary, a career that she had spent, with one employer for 13 years. And not that long ago, I made the decision myself to part ways as well. And it's been very liberating from a time perspective, a time freedom perspective, to be able to. Those are my boys. They're a little bit older right now. They're 4 and 6. However, I can drop my kids off at school. I can pick them up. I'm able to go to all the hockey practices, the hockey games, share the experiences and the same sort of passion for one another. But again, none of that would have been possible had I not made the decision that enough was enough and I needed to get educated, I needed to follow someone that was in the path that I wanted to be in. Similar to the video that Brooke showed earlier, it's to collapse that time frame and really move the needle. The mentor was very instrumental in our growth. But I won't give it all away. End of the day, we will go into further detail throughout the workshop, both in Edmonton and Calgary. So I do look forward to connecting with you guys and sharing some of my experience in hopes that it can help you out in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you,
Brooke.
Mike. Thank you, Mike, for sharing. And Mike actually has a lot more stories to share as well. So reach out to Mike. And I do want to point out, our goal here is just to show you the path. We went through the same thing. So when you're talking to Mike on a strategy call, just share who you are. And it's just between you and Mike when you're talking about your whys and when he's digging a little bit deeper for you. Very similarly as Mike, I was looking for something different. And if you haven't figured out by now, I'm ESL and I came here when I was 17 years old. I was born and raised in Taiwan. One of the things that is really important to me is going back to Taiwan at least once a year. I've been very fortunate. Every year I spend a month up to 3 months, and this year close to 4 months in Taiwan. And at the same time, we also travel to a lot of places. That wouldn't be possible if there's no time and location freedom, and of course, financial freedom as well. Whatever your goals are, and if you have family abroad, like Weddy as well, you do want to have that freedom to be able to travel. I started a little bit earlier than Mike, so 2016. So I've seen Mike's journey, I've seen Weddy's journey. I do look forward to seeing your journey as well. So one day you're here to present and show everybody how you come to the point that you are today, following exactly the same path. And I started with lease option because once you learn about the strategy, which we're going to talk about later, I found out that if I want to increase my cash flow every month, and I wanted just a proof of concept that, hey, I can actually focus on real estate and it could replace my working income. So I focused on lease option. And again, I had the help of a lot of joint venture partners. I could have ran a little bit faster. I'll just tell you my mistakes so you don't have to do the same thing. It's very exciting in the beginning. I wanted to test out all the different strategies. I wasn't focused. It took me actually 4 years to reach my financial freedom. For Mike, for Weddy, it might be 2, might be 3 years. You could run a little bit faster based on our experiences. And I do see students running faster just based on what we've learned. So I started from lease option. However, once you start to have certain things in your portfolio, your goals might change or your situation might change. And at the time, we pay a lot of tax. We were high income family, pay a lot of tax, expenses are crazy high, and our kids are into a lot of activities. And I'm talking to young parents these days. When they were young, you want to get them into skating, into hockey, into basketball, into swimming, and into piano, into violin. And my kid even went to yoga because I want to see what they're really good at. Oh, and ballet. Just to name a few. I'm pretty sure if I sit down, I can name more. Oh, and learn about writing and painting and design and drawing. Regardless, sure, you could definitely do that. You want to have the option to do that. And at that point, I thought, okay, we're making more, we're paying more tax, and the expenses just kept getting higher. We weren't able to save anything. The only thing was the appreciation on our condo. We weren't even investors. That's just by chance. So I know that might not be a consistent income, or that's not reliable. So at that age, at that point in my life, I thought if anybody is willing to show me how, I'm willing to invest, because really time is the most important thing. And since then, I've tapped into all different strategies basically out there. And for me to tell you about me, the easiest thing is for me to write a book. And thanks to the community, and once you're in the community, you'll know the community is very supportive, and I'll teach you how to sell your book and be number 1 on Amazon. So my book was sold out at one point. At this point, if you want to reach out to me, I'll give you a book just by taking action and join us at the workshop. So again, everything should have a purpose. It could be selfish because we always say you take care of yourself, then you take care of others. So you put on the oxygen mask first, then you put on your kid. Even writing a book, even for investing for yourself. I have a purpose for myself because I want to promote myself. I don't always have the chance to speak in front of you or every investor out there. I can just hand out my book, or they can go on Amazon and buy my book. So it's like my resume. If you want to create a legacy, think about, okay, then what's out there? And now there's YouTube, there's internet, so people can find you. I actually wrote the book with my kid. He was only 15 at the time. So he said, Mommy, this is just to show that with the coaching, we could actually do this. We went into coaching with people who have a book for more than 10 years and they couldn't publish it. My kid at 15, we both published the book in 10 months. In 10 months, we aim to publish it by Christmas. So same thing, if you're following the process, whatever your dream is, and my goal at the time was to just move us to a bigger house. That's it. We were in a semi-detached in the heart of Toronto, and my goal was to build a home. That was my goal. So if you learn about lease option later on, for example, each lease option could probably bring you, depending on the size, $500 joint venture, if you just take half, $500 of cash flow every month. So for you to think about how can I afford this, then think about 500 could perhaps help you afford another 80,000 or 100,000 worth of property in terms of mortgage payments. So this is what we're going through today. My goal to show who we are, Mike and myself, just to say that, hey, perhaps there's a few things that you can resonate with. Perhaps you have kids, perhaps you're a new immigrant, perhaps you just want to be able to travel. The agenda, real estate investing fundamentals, like every one of us, we follow the blueprint. How do you do your diligence and how do you structure your portfolio as an investor? Again, it starts from you. There's a lot of things you could learn. And that's why I said when I was starting, I wasn't focused. Because if by the end you feel like it's drinking from hose with all the information, I'm sure that is probably why you want to learn and how to utilize the system. So if you want to learn from my mistake, think about who you are. I switched the picture to, hey, think about male or female, what you stand for. What's your purpose? What's important to you? Perhaps the security, I totally get that. Also, perhaps you have a purpose or you just want to show the community you're in. And I've heard people talking about their parents being new immigrants. We came in as investors when we immigrated. At the same time, there are people who came in as entrepreneurs. They had to start a restaurant. They had to work 2 jobs, get themselves started, whatever that is for you. And there are different types of income when you look at the different buckets. There's fix and flip, or if it's a distressed property, you can fix it and keep it as long-term income generating vehicle. Cash flow, when we talk about lease option, when there's cash flow, that's usually where your passive income comes from. And right now in the community, there's also paper asset. Paper asset provides passive income because there's cash flow. If you understand the system, just follow it and the bot will help you trade. At the same time, sometimes it's categorized when it's stocks, when it's holding an asset, that's portfolio income. So consult your accountant. How we define it might not be exactly the same as how you report income tax. Regardless, think of it as a way for you to plan your future, plan what you want to do in terms of different income. When there's money in the buy, if you purchase a property below market value, there's money in the buy, there's portfolio income. And if you're like me, when I started, I was sitting on equity of our condo. That is basically piggy bank. You might not be able to touch right away, might not be liquid. However, that's usually where you generate your wealth. So if you're planning your financial future, and depending on where you are, if you only have, say, 10 years to work, then you have to start to accumulate wealth. However, like me, if when you're starting, you're looking at cash flow to replace your income. When we say financial freedom, it's when you have the cash flow to do so. When you look at different buckets first, then you decide on the S&P. Mike Knott, can you unmute yourself and let the newbies know what S&P stands for? so they can understand how to get themselves started, and also explain why.
It's strategy, market, and property.
Thank you, Mike. So we don't start from property first. And I get a lot of junk emails. Well, buy this property, and then you'll enjoy the appreciation. If you buy the property first, usually you'll have to come back and fix the problem. We're not speculators here. If you haven't written anything down, put down speculation leads to liquidation. That's why we don't go PMS. Focus on the strategy first, then market, then property. When you're joining us for the field trip, we're focusing on multifamily this time. So the strategy is multifamily. And then we realize, hey, this strategy could work in Edmonton or Alberta market. And that's why we have a field trip in Edmonton. And finally, when you start to learn about it, when your boots in the ground, then you find a property that's going to work for you. So it depends on the property. We always look for multiple exit strategies. So, Mike.
Can I share a little story about this when I first learned about the SMP and the circle of wealth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're all, I guess how many of you, or maybe if you, by a show of hands, type in the chat box or put your thumbs up if you're, I guess, brand new to investing. Well, looks like I'm on deep. Yeah, a little bit brand new. If you don't mind unmuting, are you just getting started, or do you have a couple under your belt?
Yeah, just getting started.
Okay, awesome. So I knew nothing about this, and Nora's new as well. And I'll admit, we're all super duper eager. I know when I first started, I wanted to get that first deal under my belt to say, hey, I'm an investor. I've made it, I've done it. And in fact, I had an investment that I was going to joint venture with my parents. Long story short, their house is paid off. We were going to leverage some equity from the house and get them going. And little did I know, I was right to the finish line of basically like the mortgage, everything was approved. It was just a matter of signing the JV and getting things on the go. But I didn't quite understand that circle of wealth that's on there. And my mentor, Tim, I brought it to his attention, and he challenged me. And I thought he was going to be excited that I was, hey, taking action, getting my first deal under my belt. In fact, it was a complete opposite. He asked me, is this contributing to your goals? And I'm like, well, yeah, I want to do some deals. But I was still brand new. I was still green. And we talked it about a bit further. And I remember it vividly. I was in my truck. We were on mentorship. And I was in my truck. So we had to stop at the time at Staples to print off some brochures and whatnot. And we got into the chat about circle of wealth. And in fact, when I told him about the deal, he said, what bucket does it fall in? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, isn't it passive? It seems like it cash flows. He's like, well, what type of deal is it? And just for your information, it was a pre-construction type deal, and we are gonna have it suited with dual income, top and bottom. However, construction hadn't even started. So he's like, what bucket does it fall into? And he further explained it to me in his portfolio. He's like, what is your goal? I'm like, well, to be able to transition from my job, create cash flow and put money in my pocket. And he's like, is it going to do that from day one? I'm like, no. He's like, how long will it take? I was like, we got about another year of construction. So he had me figure it out on my own. Because again, mentors will not give you the answer. We want you to walk through the process, your thought process of what you're thinking about, so you can answer that yourself. So you can think on your feet like an investor yourself. And then I realized he was pulling me away, and I figured it out. It was all for the right reasons, because it wasn't contributing to my goal. It wasn't feeding the passive bucket. It was feeding the portfolio, which is maybe a down the road type investment when you have your passive bucket filled to the point that it exceeds your earned income. And I walked away from the deal. It was he helped me navigate the conversation I had to have with my joint venture partner, because I was walking away from a deal that was supported. But to this day, I'll never forget that. And it was very eye-opening to understand what that circle of wealth means, what your goals actually are, and understand SMP. And if it does not contribute, it's maybe something you can wholesale, but that's another topic, or walk away from. But want to share that with you guys.
Thank you, Mike. And that you actually led it to my next slide, because you talk about, hey, when you have enough passive income to cover your expenses, that's when you reach your financial freedom goal. If you haven't done this, make sure you download the sheet or take a picture of it or reach out to Mike, because that's how you start the conversation. Because if you don't know where you're aiming, how are you going to make sure you're reaching your goal? Most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. And I think people having an idea, even when you say you have a hunch, that's what I am on earth for, translate that to then what's my financial freedom goal. So Mike, you reminded me of a story too, because I did mention that I had a whole bunch of deal on my spreadsheet, and I trust your talent, there are awards. So if you're action takers, number of deals, then you win the action taker award. Ultimately, people want to be financial freedom fighters. So I mentioned it took me 4 years to reach financial freedom because I have so many deals on my sheet. I'm pretty sure I could win the action taker award if there was such a thing at that time. And I'll pull out the picture. Tim and Ray were in town, so our mentors were in town, and we were sitting down. I showed him what I have even before we met. List a whole ton of deals. And they just sat me down, drawing the circle on the napkin at the dinner table, saying, Brooke, you said your goal is to have cash flow replace your income. Look what you're doing. I actually got a lot of properties under accumulating wealth or speculating bucket. However, that wasn't my goal. And I converted a few single family homes to suited. They don't cash flow because in Ontario, if you have 2 units, it still don't cash flow, even though I went through the process. So again, it's not about accumulating properties or accumulating doors. So since then, I sold all of these properties because really it's about opportunity cost too. With that capital, with not just money, also the time, your mental space, wouldn't you be better off knowing where you should aim? So even though this is very basic, Tim and Ray also mentioned to me at that time, every year in the beginning of the year, they sit down and drawing that circle, putting down 3 buckets, thinking about where they want to aim that year. So if you have reached your financial freedom, you're thinking, okay, what should I aim for? Even something fun, like I want to buy a property or get into a deal before my birthday or during our anniversary. Mike and Ali, for example, as a couple, they're investing together and as a team. If it's our wedding anniversary, perhaps we'll get into a deal. So once you reach that goal, then you realize, hey, I can plan it. I can plan out what I want to do for the year. Again, time, location, freedom at the same time. How do you free up your time to do what you want? So our goal is to help you reach your financial goal in 2 to 5 years. If you're not making a difference in your life, I understand if you want to log off and talk to us, letting us know what we didn't do or what we did well, what your takeaways are. That's really what we're here for. If we're not making a difference in your life, we shouldn't in business. However, every year I Trust Your Talent, there are more and more and more award winners. And if you can listen to what the award winner said about how it has changed their life, not just about money. Nobody actually talk about, I make this and that much money. It's really about how that made a difference in their life. So before we get into the strategies, I do want to hear from you. How do you decide on which strategy to focus on? And if you already know your why, do share. One more thing, I do want to recognize that Nora and Aziz, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You did put in the chat, you're brand new in the group. So we always welcome new people, and we want to congratulate you as well for taking that first step, for taking action. So, and also Jennifer, I understand you just logged in. And round of applause for those who turned your cameras on. I get that. Sometimes it's unsafe. At the same time, I do want to recognize people who are not quiet investors. So I do want to hear, how do you decide on which strategy to focus on and why? Sarah, how do you decide on, because you're the first with the camera on my screen.
Well, first off, I'm learning the strategies, but it comes down to what are my goals, short term, medium term, and long term. So strategies that I'm looking into getting into first are actually lease options, although that's not necessarily a long term goal, but it will build and help me get to where I want to be long term. And so that's it's really been through talking to people and learning and taking the courses and networking and picking everyone else's brain and figuring out what they did and what worked and what didn't, and learning from their mistakes as well.
Thank you, Sarah. And I already shared how I didn't pick the right strategy, so it took me a little bit longer. And Mike and Wendy, unmute yourself. I do want to hear, Mike, why do you have so many strategies on your resume?
So, well, lease option was my baby strategy, and it was for many reasons. Above average cash flow. It fits into multiple buckets. When you take that advanced training, you'll learn more about that, but they feed into the earned, the passive, and the portfolio bucket, which was exciting. Ultimately, what it boiled down to is being able to help others out, first-time home buyers that can't necessarily qualify. So I picked that strategy, but to go back to your question and not dodge it, Brooke, the reason why I have so many strategies is the fact that end of the day, sometimes it's new challenges. And more importantly, it's so you can, what we call dovetail. You can create the deal, because we can all look at a property and to one, they might be like, oh, the numbers don't work because of list price and what have you. But maybe they're only looking at it from one strategy perspective. But when you have multiple strategies, you can open up those blinders and realize that, hey, you can create this deal in many different ways when you know what you know. And that's the reason why I've been able to do it. And as I've grown and as our passive income has exceeded our earned income, we were able to go into the different buckets, which allowed us to, explore different strategies as well.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing. Weddy.
Well, I started as buying and pray or hold and pray. So I collecting quite a bit of properties, and then, interest rate went up quite a bit. So, okay, I cannot keep doing this. Now I'll be in red. So, and also I maxed out my personal loan. So I need to find a different way to do it. So, yeah, Treasure Talent give me that option that I have to move to commercial side of investing. But again, there are also many different ways you can go through that. So the first thing I do, I see what I have, I refinance my stuff, change stuff around, and actually I'm making more money now because just changing stuff with what I have. That's first step. Basically, you plan to be successful with what you have, and then you leverage the strategy and the people around you to achieve your goal. I mean, every strategy have its best, have what they call it. The return they make and the level of what they can do for you is depending, go back again on your goal, what you want to achieve in short term, medium term, and long term. So you go from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Weddy, for sharing. And Vince is joining us, even though he's driving, he's sharing another strategy coach here.
I was just getting excited, so I wanted to share too. So I would say it comes down, and this is what the coaches and the mentors will help with each of the students, is to figure out their financial situation, their circumstances, and the resources that they have access to. So for me, when I started, I didn't really have a lot of money. So my first route right from the beginning was creative financing. And the fact that I didn't have a lot of time, my focus was more on lease option. And so the whole goal of it was really focusing on higher cash flow so I can quit my job sooner to get my time back. And then that way I can reinvest my time back to grow my portfolio. And so lease option was the strategy I utilized based on what my coach told me to do. And so everybody's journey is going to be different. And eventually you start to branch out when you get more time and you got more money, and you can start to learn more strategies. And like Mike said, dovetailing strategies between each other and making more creative and more lucrative returns on your investments. So for sure.
Thank you, Vince, for sharing. And if you haven't noticed, Vince started in his 20s. I started in my 40s, and everybody is different. So there's Mike started in his 30, and then there's Weddy, etc. Regardless, this is where the blueprint is. And I do want to recognize, for example, Weddy shared, perhaps he already had quite a few properties. It doesn't matter. And I'm not telling you to collect a lot of properties. A lot of the times, perhaps you're here because you realize I'm holding all these properties, I'm not cash flowing, it doesn't make sense. What's a better way? So even if you already have a portfolio, even for us too, sometimes we look at it and see how we can improve it. Can I allocate my resources in a more efficient way? The easiest way to look at it is, again, if you're younger, you might be looking to accumulate some capital. So there are quite a few younger students in the group. They're looking to wholesale deals. They're looking to flips. There's nothing wrong with one strategy over another. Really, it is about where you are. And for me, I look at midterm strategies because I want to see that cash flow. Remember, when you fix and flip, when you wholesale, it's a one-time deal. You have to consistently look for deals. That's why it's called active strategies. When, like Weddy now, even though he started with a lot of single family homes, you realize, hey, I'm at a point, I want to build long-term wealth. Then look into infill or look into multifamily. SA stands for service accommodation. By the way, if there's acronyms you're not familiar with, type in the chat. That's also one way of taking action. Ask us about it. Richard, I know you're walking, but I do want to hear what you can share with the group. Are you able to talk? Okay.
Yes. So I also wanted to share my experience. I've been with TYT for a little over 2 years by this point. I started off in multifamily because back then I had a W-2 income, and I was thinking of being passive and building the long-term wealth. And then next thing you know, I had enough of my job and decided to pick up the real estate business full-time. And while my properties were being stabilized and I was fighting my tenants in eviction court, I needed to pay the bills now. So I made a pivot in my business last year into creative financing, lease options, and a unique setup, a legal setup called contract for deed here in the US. For that more of that immediate cash flow. So yeah, that's my journey. I guess the moral of the lesson is always be ready to pivot based on your situation.
Thank you, Richard. So he actually brought up a point that, hey, the market could even be in the US. So we have the biggest curriculum in North America, even includes US market as well. So if you do want to learn more, and if you're part of the community, as a reminder, Richard will be sharing tomorrow at Mastermind Collection. So Mastermind is where existing students come together, talk about what's new, or share their experiences, or even share their deals if they're looking for somebody to partner up with as part of the community. I'm going to get into different strategies. So for the time we have, I do want to remind you that, hey, there are different strategies out there. I'm putting out a few just for you to take a look at, hey, what are the possibilities out there? How can I structure it? And how to fuel the deal, make it run faster, and change the ROI just by creatively finance the deal. And this property, purchase price, PP stands for purchase price, $200,000. I know, I mean, a lot of people saw this picture and said, Brooke, that's a teardown. It's not a fix and flip. Let's just go with the example. Purchase price, $200,000, and you put in $70,000 to renovate the property. And sometimes people overlook that, hey, it is important to have a great curb appeal. So what happened in this deal is that we renovated for $70,000. We still need $25,000 that we didn't plan for landscaping. So let's look at how much money you need to put in. A lot of the times, if the property is in a shape like it is in the picture, or if you think you can quickly renovate and close a deal, you might not even go through a mortgage qualification process if you have access for funds. because if the deal makes sense, money will chase the deal. In this example, let's assume that total money in is $295,000. It only takes 4 months to renovate the property. You're working with experienced contractors, for example. ARV stands for after repair value. So once you're in the community, a lot of the time people use acronyms. If you don't understand, make sure you raise your hand or ask one of us. So in this particular example, the after repair value after only 4 months is $435,000. After, if you have my book, this is the example I use. I have the actual property in the book. It's in London, Ontario. So that's numbers similar to the actual example. I simplify it, took out a few digits for learning purposes. Yes, there are deals out there actually exist, because I hear a lot of people are saying, I can't find good deals. All the good deals are taken. However, really good deals are for people who are ready. As I mentioned, if you're able to find a property and secure private funds, you don't even have to worry if you can qualify for a mortgage. In this particular example, everything was done in cash. So if you sell the property after repair and pay everybody off, and basically pay off all your initial investment of purchasing the property, renovating, landscaping, this is your profits at the end of 4 months. So who will want to get into this deal? By show of hands, who will want to get into a deal like this? All right. So if you're not putting up your hand, I'm a little worried that you still have fear not getting into a deal. Reach out to one of us. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Why not? And if the deal is good, the money will chase the deal. So if you borrow 75 and 25K for 4 months at 12%, so imagine you have to use OPM. A lot of the times where some of the flippers I work with, they're saying, Brooke, I have some cash because I just flipped the previous house. However, they still need additional injection of OPM in order to complete the deal. So I know some of you here might have the funds available. If you have 70,000 available right now to get into a deal like this, and you want to make that 12%, all right? And if you have 25,000 available to get into a deal like this, okay? So in this particular case, if you're the person with the deal, wouldn't you be willing to work with somebody like Sarah and utilize her money and pay her 12%? Because I'll show you the money, even though it's at 12%, you only need the fund for 4 months. If you haven't taken a picture of the previous slide, I will show you again. Usually when the funds or the OPM is short term, the interest rate is higher. However, you want to buy that time. You want to buy that flexibility. So if you have the deal, you're sharing the wealth with Sarah, with Mike, with Amandeep at 12%. You're paying them $3,800. Even so, you're still making $136,000 in just 4 months. Okay, this is an actual deal. I didn't put up the picture of the actual house. However, this house is worth a little bit more now because it could be a student rental. We flipped it just to get some quick cash. So just to give you some example. And I talk about that 25,000, that was unforeseen. So that was borrowed after the close to the end of the renovation. Even if you don't have that fund right now, I can show you resources out there. And now we have another course called credit card churning. At the same time, as investors, we always talk about investor cards. We're not telling you to get credit cards, not use it for investing. One of the things you can look at as to good debt, bad debts, if you have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that the money you borrowed is actually making you money. If you don't have that $25,000, you still want to make that 12%. These are the places where you can find resources. And I just checked the MBNA today. They actually offer 18 months of interest-free right now. Okay, just out there, what's out there? How do you improve your return on investment? So even though there's 2% transfer fee, if you're borrowing $25,000, 2% of that, that's all the cost that's associated. Again, I want to remind you that it's not about how much it costs you, it's about how much it's going to make you. So you're wondering, oh my gosh, should I spend a few $100s and borrow that money? Just imagine how quickly you can run if you can learn to leverage. So I mentioned that if you have all the money and put in the deal, the return on investment in this particular case is 47%. If you can leverage the credit card with that 25, and with just 1% land transfer fee, and by the way, you can check the updates since they updated to 18 months of balance transfer. I think their fee probably was also updated a little bit. Regardless, just run the formula. I just want you to see that, hey, even with the cost, how are you going to make your money run a little bit faster? If you just leverage that 25,000, 0% interest with balance transfer fee, your return on investment is now close to 52%. Just run the numbers with me. By the way, put it down, ROI, return on investment, basically shows you how fast your money is running for you. Return on investment, how fast is your money running for you? Okay. When it comes to cash flow, we talk about financial freedom. We want the cash flow to cover your expenses. However, how fast do you want to grow your wealth? That's when you're looking at return on investment. So we went through first strategy very quickly. The whole distressed property is also a fundamental course at Trust Your Talent. I'm condensing it to 5 minutes when the ins and outs of how to find the deals, how to structure the deal is actually in a course that every student at Trust Your Talent will be taking. So distressed property as REI fundamental class. Okay. And this is just a guideline as to how you plan, how quickly you want to reach your financial freedom goal. Take 2 pictures. If you haven't taken any, take a picture of this. It's not set in stone, by the way. And if you look at the numbers, just as a guideline to plan your future. And I think Vince, myself, Mike mentioned that we started with lease option because the cash flow is great for lease option. If you're looking at lease option deals, and if you want to joint venture and share the wealth, use that number 5 to 1,200 because sometimes it's joint venture, 50-50, however you want to structure it. Again, it is a more advanced course. So just based on the number, then you know what you want to learn, how you want to go through the path of reaching your financial freedom goal. Service accommodation, so short-term rental, service accommodation is another advanced course. Assuming that you can make 300 plus per month, just do it as a plan, write it down. How many of these deals will you need? So if you're only looking at, for my example, I want to travel back to Taiwan. Each ticket is cost me about $2,000. If you're able to qualify for one deal yourself, 1,200 plus 2 joint venture deals. So 4 lease option deals will buy you 1 ticket. And if you're looking at, hey, I'm already accumulating some capital so I can start to private land. I use 12% as a simple calculation. If you have 100,000, lend it at 12%. Assuming there is no interest that you're paying, then you can make $1,000 a month. Okay, just base it on your situation and see what you need. If you don't have any capital and you want something that's going to run a little bit faster for you to accumulate capital, look at wholesale and assignment. We put down 5,000 plus. However, if you're creative, you can find vendor take back. You can help the buyer of your deal find money in the buy. You can definitely earn a little bit more than 5,000, 10,000. I'm willing to invest if you can find me that deal. If you have the knowledge, the expertise, and the power team in that market. So take a picture of this if you haven't, and you can also base it on your situation to decide what you want to get into. So multifamily, when I started, I thought it was far-fetched, and I don't feel comfortable having more than 4 tenants in my property. 5 tenants, let alone 10. Regardless, this is not about you managing each tenant or you fixing every single toilet in that unit. Think about how you're going to leverage your team. So when you're qualifying for a mortgage, you know that you could be capped. when it comes to multifamily or income property, it's a property that is going to qualify. However, I do want to remind you that there are other criteria. It's not just about the property. You also have to have a resume. You also have to show you have the net worth to support it. And the property value, like I said, is based on the performance of the property. So net operating income, sometimes you will see this in the MLS listing. In this particular case, this was already given, the example. So I do just want you to get through the example with me to see how you can scale. So I'm giving you the example, run the numbers with me, take notes. And I do like the fact that some existing students are also in the group, just because that a lot of the times you know that you're starting to raise funds. If your joint venture partner, your investors are only going to give you 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and I appreciate that. You're giving me an hour and a half. A lot of the times you have to run the numbers with them. So in this case, they give you the net operating income is $39,000. By the way, net operating income, if you have taken Accounting 101 or economics, means that there's no debt servicing, because that's a different category. And if you're having a mortgage on the property for $30,200, remember it's a 7-unit. So your cash flow is your net operating income, so the expenses based on the building, based on the property, then minus all your debt servicing. So you're making close to $9,000 a year. Everything is annualized. Your cash flow about, divide that by 12, 700 per month. Divide that by 7 units, your cash flowing just about $100. Okay. So just to give you an idea, how do you plan for it? So if you're looking at income property again, this was actually on the market not too long ago. So run through the numbers and understand how it works. So I give you the example of cap rate because, for example, if you run the numbers, net operating income divided by the purchase price. So we know the purchase price is 600. 39,182 divide that by 600. Your cap rate is 6.5%. If in that market, you know the cap rate in that market in general is 6%, that means you have money in the buy. I'll just give you that much because at this point, if you want to learn more, also at the workshop, you're going to have a little bit deeper dive into different strategies. You're going to go through role playing. You're going to go through different games to see, hey, how this actually runs. For the time we have, I do just want you to have the concept of it. So you're having that idea. What's the blueprint? What do you want to learn? Lease option are baby strategies. So for Vince, Mike, and Richard and myself, for example, lease option is our baby strategy. If you only have 5 minutes with your investor, I can explain it in 5 minutes. However, I think you're here to learn a little bit more. So I'm going to give you this much. Usually you look at it as 2 different contracts. Really, lease option, when I started, was for people like me. I don't feel comfortable about fixing properties. I don't feel comfortable about managing too many tenants. This cash flows, remember, 500, 600 per unit. If you look at the multifamily, each unit cash flow $100. You need to have 5 units in order to cash flow like one lease option deal. That's how I looked at it. However, there's pros and cons of every single deal or different strategies. For a lease option, you would have to look for a new deal or you're obligated to sell the property because the tenant have the right, the option to purchase the property. So just look at it as 2 contracts, 1 lease, 1 option. Lease is just like a regular lease in the market. So you charge the regular market rent. What's different is that the tenant will pay for repairs. And sometimes in a rental property, they also pay for all the utilities. However, in a lease option scenario, you let them know they can pay for repair. They can do minor renovations, depends on the situation. It's in the contract. On the other hand, there's a separate contract called an option contract. That's why we say lease option. So the option contract gives the tenant the option to purchase the property. Because it gives, by the way, just something you can also write down. Every contract will take in effect when there's money changing hands. If you didn't put in any money to secure the contract is not valid. So what we call option is basically giving the tenant buyer, the option to purchase a property towards the end. To have that option, they have to put in additional money every month, and also when we started the program, okay? So just to give you an idea, when you explain it, that's what it is. Doing acquisition, there's money in the buy because the tenant comes in what we call option consideration. Basically, that says, hey, I want this option. Mike, Vince, Brooke, you're the program. For them, we're the program specialist. They come in with that initial option to say, I'm committed to this. I want to get into it. I want to have that option to purchase. For that, again, like I said, contract, with every contract, there should be money changing hands. And go through the class, you'll learn how to calculate that number to make sure they can qualify as homeowner at the end of the program. So during the program, again, there's the option portion. So every month they put in money to say, I want to continuously have this right. And that portion will be converted to down payment when they're ready to buy the house. And on top of that, there's the regular rent. So every month they come in with, in this particular case, $3,550 minus all the expenses. That's your cash flow every month. And you share that with your joint venture partner. And that's how we run a little bit faster. So times 12, times 3, throughout the program, that's how much cash flow you're enjoying with your investor. And at sales, there's an agreed purchase price with the tenant buyer. Remember that every month you're also paying down your mortgage. So with the proceeds from sale, minus the lawyer fee, etc., and the initial investment to close the deal in the beginning, that is how much you get at the end of the program, proceeds from sales. So with that, divide that by all the initial investment you put in to buy the property, to close it. That's your return on investment in this particular case. I know you're just running through the numbers with me at this point. And if you're speaking to an investor like I'm speaking to you, we just want to make sure that, hey, there is a way for you to see that there is a way to produce double-digit return, to make your money run a little bit faster for you. I don't expect you to understand the beginning to the end, how you qualify tenant buyer, etc. at this point. Just run through the numbers with me. So in that case, when you speak to an investor, you understand how it works. At the same time, I do want to point out that we are in a people's business. I can run the numbers with you as much as I want. If you're a joint venture, if you're getting into the deal with the wrong people, then it's not going to be a good deal or a great deal. Regardless, the money talks. However, I'm sure if you don't trust this person, even though they did show you how they make money, you're wondering if you could go through this deal with this person. So even with tenant buyers, remember that they're on the journey with you. We're looking for tenant buyers who are committed to be homeowners. We don't want people who couldn't find a rental, so they just want to find a way to get into a house. No, we want people to be committed. That's why on top of the rent, they're investing in their future home. They're investing in their future. So this is what we're looking for. Are they coachable? Because a lot of the times they need help with fixing their credit. And I have some tenant buyers who are newcomers from different countries. They need help learning the credit system in Canada. So if they're committed to be homeowners, they're investing in their future by committing to the program and being coachable. It's very important because at times we're tenant buyers who just want to do their own thing. I could tell if they're coachable or not. Are they really going to follow through with repairing their credit to make sure they can succeed throughout the journey? So even though this is not about numbers, I do think there are qualities beyond numbers that you're looking for. That's why you need the support of a community. That's why you want to get into a deal with somebody you know, trust, and like. And I get that. You're here to learn about the numbers. At the same time, most people here said, hey, they want to learn about the network, the OPM, how to leverage other people's knowledge. When your joint venture partners, when you're looking for OPM, coming to you, they're also leveraging your experience and your knowledge. So your blueprint, how do you want to reach the next level? How do you want to make sure that you're actually maintaining the living standard you're looking for? So this is a number depending on where you are. In Toronto, for example, I think this number probably have gone up as well. On average, they spend $3,500. So a lot of the times, if you're single and if you're a student coming to the community, you'll say, Brooke, I just want to cover my expenses. Perhaps you want a little bit more. If I just look at the number, on average, you're looking at $3,500. If you're in Vancouver, $3,400. And if you're looking at Quebec City, say $2,000, to be fair. If you're a family of 4, if you're frugal and you watch your expenses, perhaps you can get by with $6,000 or so. I know a lot of us are here because of our kids. So you're a family of 4. Is that really enough for you? I'm just giving you the average and the minimum. So if you're looking at, for example, you're in Quebec City, I used the example of 3 strategies. And if you're telling me, Brooke, I'm working right now, and I appreciate that some of you text in the chat that you're working, you're busy, you're still here with us. Perhaps you're not able to turn the camera on. Regardless, can you spare 2 hours a night? And if we're looking at 3 strategies, are you able to find 1 deal every 2 months? Every 2 months, 60 days, just make sure you secure 1 deal. So if you're looking at the numbers, if you're able to do that, you'll be able to find enough passive income. When I use lease option as an example, income property, or perhaps you already have some funds to private land. So this is my chart because this is easy Excel. You can do it on paper, pen and paper, whatever suits you. Or you can go through your income statement with your strategy coach. This is how you get into financial freedom. As simple as that. All the example I showed here are actual deals. I even showed you the picture of the multifamily. That was a live deal on the market not too long ago. So I just want you to see that, hey, they are out there. You just have to understand how to structure the deal, how to find funds, how to have the knowledge to leverage your power team and put it all together. If that's still not clear to you, I encourage you to meet us in person. Mike, Vince, they will be there as your strategy coach at the live workshop. And if you do want to learn more, we can only share so much with the time we have. That's the whole point. I'm guiding you through the path. So if you're motivated and you realize there's a lot more you want to learn, there's a lot more we don't know what we don't know. And I'm pretty sure I'm also constantly learning from all of you. And this is not just about money. It's also about your overall health, your wealth, your mental, etc. So a lot of the times when we're talking about financial freedom, not about the dollar amount, is because if you're not financially free, imagine how much mental stress or energy you're wasted on things you're worrying about. So Richard is so young, but he's working out in front of us because a big part of it, and if you can see Mike without his shirt, all of us care about overall wealth, health, or mental and spiritual well-being. And this is just a starting point. This is just a starting point. So if you haven't done that, take a picture of the QR code. Thank you for being here with me. Deal like a pro. And if you haven't realized that, for the time I have, I followed a very, very simple blueprint for you. I don't like things complicated. As much as I want to just pour everything in front of you, especially now, number one, people are here to gain knowledge. That's what the survey said. If it's not clear to you, start from you. Cash flow, wealth, and then you are the reason why. And you start from you. Then you go into different buckets to look at cash flow, return on investment, and your wealth. And if you haven't realized that, we're here to educate, inspire, and have fun with you. Really, I'm not giving you any tests. There's no stress. I just want to know where you are by communicating with you or by asking you to reach out, call to action, reach out to strategy coaches. And Mike here on duty, he shared his journey briefly with us. If you want to hear more about his story, he'll share that in the live workshop. And meet your goals. Your GPS is your overall midterm, short-term to long-term goals. Strategies, again, I like things in 3. If you haven't realized that, everything is in the number of 3s. 3 layers is our blueprint today. 3 strategies. And three main purpose: your cash flow, your real return on investment, and building your wealth. So if you haven't realized that, take a picture of it and fill in different buckets. You can put out your own map as well. And I show you three different strategies and the type of income that might bring to you once you start to take action. And importantly, investor mindset is in the background. So we mentioned, hey, investors are leveraging the power team. Investors don't care about how much it costs. We care more about how much it makes you. And it's also important about how much you keep in your pocket. So to get started, we also have business fundamentals to help you get structured to start. If that's still not clear to you, your next step is to start talking to a strategy coach. And they're here to help you realize your dream. If you're just thinking about it, it's a dream. They want to help you and turn it into reality. That's really our goal here. So to make it simple for you, you can take a picture of the QR code to start talking to your strategy coach. So of all the new investors here, Theo, take a picture of the QR code. Your question is answered. And you can also reach out to Mike here as well. He is one of our strategy coaches. So thank you, Theo, for taking action by being here today and asking questions. And again, I put up the QR code for you to join us live in person. And if you're thinking about flights, we also have credit card training. We're helping you each step of the way. Mike, anything to add?
No, I'm excited to see everyone live in person on November 8th to the 10th in Edmonton, and then same in Calgary on the 15th and the 17th. I forget who had said in the chat box, who here is from Calgary? They want to put their hand up or thumbs up. So we got Mike Knott. Anyone else? I believe there's Marco as well. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. And then same with Edmonton. And as Brooke said, you look at Ken. Ken was one that was on an online workshop and ended up flying from Ontario out to Edmonton to come do this. And he's doing phenomenal things. And it's just a prime example of getting that support, that direction to be able to achieve your goals. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you. And just remember, this is only kind of scratching the surface. I wouldn't even say scratching the surface, but there's much more to learn. But we all got to start somewhere.
So I do want to share this video before we end the session today.
We're coming to your city. Trust Your Talent is the largest real estate investing academy in all of North America. They're hosting a live event that you definitely will not want to miss. We don't rush you into buying your first investment property. We equip you with the tools and knowledge to make that very first confident investment. You're going to ask how.
Build a strategy that includes both short-term and long-term investments.
Set clear, specific financial goals.
Educate yourself continuously about market trends and investment techniques.
Surround yourself with a supportive community of like-minded investors.
Learn from our seasoned investors who have helped countless others reach their financial goals. Join the live workshop today. Learn the skills that you need to create the life that you deserve.
And I'm actually glad the students, ambassadors in the video actually plan out the path for you, just like we talked about. Set your goals, short-term, long-term goals, and surround yourself with the right community who has done this and who are taking action. So thank you again for spending the time with us, 90 minutes out of your day. So thank you. Thank you, Marco. I know some of you are not able to turn on your camera. And Mandeep, you're welcome. And thank you for joining, also turning on the camera. And Jennifer, I just saw you turning on the camera. Thank you. Sarah, I know sometimes you're teaching. So thank you for turning on the camera and joining us today as well. Mike, thank you for being voluntold. And I do want to also thank Mike and Weddy for being here with me today as well.
Thank you.
Anytime, Brooke. Anytime.
And thank you, Frank, for the comment as well. If there are no other questions, I'll let you start your day. In the meantime, you can also reach out to our strategy coaches and take action if you want the slides, if you want to learn more about how to get there. So enjoy your day. See you. And Theo. Hi, Theo, do you have questions? Unmute yourself.
I just wanted to know your thoughts about the Quebec real estate market. Briefly.
So there are a few markets that might not be investor friendly, Ontario, Quebec being one of them. And we don't always invest in our backyard. Theo, are you in Quebec?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you guys in Charmin as well, Mike and Weddy. And we talk about distressed property. Usually if you fix and flip and you find a good opportunity, it could work in any market. However, in general, I personally don't invest long-term or rental properties in Quebec and Ontario, just because we're looking at better opportunities where your money can run faster for you.
Okay, but is it more complicated to invest out of your own province, or does it not change much, or what are your thoughts on that?
That's why we talked about power team. Mike?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Theo, coming from Calgary, I do love Calgary, FYI. Alberta is a great market for many reasons. However, my first investment was in fact in Ontario, and it was a lease options, one that I'd never seen the property to this day, and we executed on it. So once you're educated and you can trust the numbers, you can trust the process, you know the strategies, and you have the right people in place, really you can do, just because you're in Quebec does not mean that you need to invest there. Now, is it a good market? As I sort of mentioned, I just said it depends, right? Depends on what your exits are. I personally will do different strategies in different markets, but it just depends on what the strategy is. Because yeah, if it's not landlord friendly, I do not want to hold on to them. Maybe I'll flip it, maybe I'll wholesale it, but I won't hold on to it. So again, goes back to multiple strategies, multiple markets, and being able to be confident with the education that you've acquired to be able to take it anywhere you want, no matter where you are.
Cool. And so what would be your top 3 provinces to invest in right now?
Top 3? Well, to be honest, I've been in Alberta, predominantly Calgary and Edmonton for the last while, for again, many reasons. Those are where I'm sticking. I have lended, I've done some self-directed RSP lending on flips and throughout the prairies, but I'm very particular about what I'm looking at, and every investment's a bit different. So I guess I can't get into specifics because they're all slightly different.
I get it. Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Weddy?
So for me, it's basically go back to your finances, like what you have, what you want to get out of it. And joining this team, you learn, where you can maximize your returns. So, okay, you can go to that market, this market, but if you go to this market, you put so little and you get more money out. So it all depends on what you're looking for. I mean, you can, invest in your backyard, but you're only making just a 10%, but you can invest in someone else's backyard making 20%. So it depends what you want to do. And for what I learned from this community as well, they are not limited to Canada. You can also go to US if you want to. I'm not there yet, but it's just you have access to that teaching and learning. So how to be successful not only in Alberta or Ontario or USA. So you have lots of options.
So Theo, you look really, really young to me. It depends on what resources you have too. How old are you?
Thank you, Brooke.
I'm 20.
Thank you, Brooke.
Mike, you're younger than me, so you don't have to worry either.
Okay.
And I pulled out this again for people who are looking at, you're talking about market first. So again, your strategy and who you are first has to come into planning before you decide on the market and property. So I mentioned, why do we decide on having the field trip in Alberta? Because that's a market that makes sense to take the students through. Mo, if you don't mind me, because you're addressing similar questions, so I do want to point that out. And again, I've had properties in Ontario. I still have some. I couldn't get out of it sooner than I was hoping for. At the same time, I'm looking at how do I maximize my capital, my time, my investment. Again, less stress as well. And again, we're playing under the rule books, meaning, hey, there's a tenant law, we have to pay taxes, there's corporate tax, personal tax, regardless, what's making the most sense under the playbook, what's making sense for us. So, you know, even if we have to travel, I love to travel because I want to see Mike and Weddy and Vince in person. That's a bonus. At the same time, we're looking for investments too. Mo?
Can I intervene a little bit? Yeah. Sorry for not sharing my camera because you know I'm doing some emails, so I'm not concentrating too much with you guys. So I'm sorry about that. Basically, I'm living in London, Ontario, and I'm first time home buyer. You know, so I'm looking for that property that could have, let's say, for example, a basement where I can basement or whatever, or some separate place within that property where I can benefit. So I don't want to have that separate building like what you have 7 floor or 7 building, you know what I mean, 7 units or whatever. No, I just need like a first home buyer where I can, you know, like a bungalow or whatever, where can I live with my family with the first floor, and I can rent the basement, or maybe I can do an Airbnb, you know what I mean? If, let's say, for example, Ontario is not it's not a landlord friendly, maybe I can go with other options, like, for example, Airbnb. I don't know what kind of options other than that, so that I can mitigate the issues of laws for each province. I don't know if you can help with that issue. Thank you.
I'll answer that first. You guys can chime in. So it depends. Linden, Ontario, you're in luck because our trainer for Airbnb actually lives in Linden. And I do have a couple properties in Linden as well. When it's you're talking about house hacking, you live where you want to rent out. So because you're living there is Airbnb rules out there. Because you're living there, you do have more options. We need more time to discuss this. I'll just point a few things out. And being a homeowner, first-time home buyer, you also have a few tools that you can utilize. Not every investor buying investment property could utilize in terms of RSP or mortgages, etc., etc. However, Mo, we can rent out all our houses. It's a good starting point, and that helps you pay your mortgage. However, once you start to expand, we're talking about scaling this and creating wealth. Once you start to scale and expand, you will go beyond your home. You'll go beyond what's out there.
Yeah, I understand your point. Yeah, but let's say at least as a starting point, if I can start, you know, rather than, because I'm right now in the renting, you know, in the renting phase, rather than continue with the renting, maybe I can start invest with as a first home buyer with a property that I own, and start with leasing or Airbnb or whatever that part of my house, and then scale up, you know, starting from my own and then scale it up later on. You know, I don't know if that strategy works. I'm not sure.
I don't know if Vince is available. Vince, you're available, you can chime in, because he is one of the investors I knew. He didn't even buy his first home. He started renting, even though he's a homeowner now.
Yeah, so
okay.
yeah, I did want to chime in on this because Mo, it really does come down to your personal circumstance. I mean, like, for me, I really did not want to live with my tenants. I mean, if you want a house hack and you want to be there with your tenants, whether it's Airbnb or long-term rental house hacking, that's up to you. There's no right or wrong way to start. And like Brooke said, it does come down to the resources that you have access to as well. Because remember, your resources, it doesn't have to be just your own resources. It could be resources of other people. But at the same time, you got to think about what your actual plans are. And if you're able to delay that gratification of owning your own home, that's something that I would even consider, because for me, when I started, I had the intention of buying my own home and then renting out the basement as well. But I really thought about wanting that tenant to be there. I didn't want to take care of them and have that headache there, because it does take away from your mental bandwidth as well, and then the troubles of it and whatnot. So I instead just went directly, and instead of buying my own house, I actually was renting and continue to rent. I bought multiple properties for other people to be able to live in and rent to them first. And as I delayed my gratification, eventually I reached the goal of financial freedom because that was my priority. Financial freedom was my priority first. And then from there, once I hit my financial freedom, then I decided, you know what, I want to try owning a home. And so then I decided to buy a home,
Yeah.
and then I bought my BMW, and then I started a family, all three at the same time, because I knew I could afford it. And so that's what I did. Everybody's
Yeah.
plans are different and circumstances are different. So what I would suggest is, set up a time with a coach, and
Yeah.
that way you can actually sit down with them and talk over what your actual goals are and have a bit more clarity of what you actually want, what you don't want, and then that way we can figure out the best path for you.
Thank you, Richard.
Does
Really,
that
I
make sense?
appreciate that. Yeah. You are thinking like the other way, because I'm thinking maybe in the classical traditional way where I start owning, then I go for scaling, as Brooke says. But maybe I have to think the other way, maybe out of the box, like maybe I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I need an appointment with you guys. I think so.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There's
Yeah.
like I said, there's no right or wrong. It really comes down to what your priority is first. That's really it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. Richard, while you're working out and walking, can you unmute?
Yeah, I just finished working out. So here's what we did. So between me, my spouse Kevin, and myself, we have probably over 15,000 square feet of real estate under management. Last month we bought a house sitting on a 10 acre, so that's another 10 acre that we own between my spouse, myself, and our company. We are renting an 800 square feet apartment, right? So that's the that's the decision that we made in order to grow our real estate portfolio. Because for us to sunk that much equity into a home that we personally are going to enjoy, that we are going to be debt servicing on, that's less of a priority than we buying home for other people to enjoy so we can get the cash flow. Because personally, I don't believe primary residence is an investment. I don't believe primary residence is an asset. I think it's a liability because I'm paying the bill to enjoy it. It's only an asset if I'm buying for someone else and they're paying the bill, so I get paid. So
yeah, if it's not putting money in your pocket, is it
exactly
a liability? Yeah. So yeah, to sum that up, everything depends on what your goals are. You got to look at the strategies that will complement it and what's going to get you there the quickest. And this is where we stress that, the multiple strategies, multiple markets you got to ask yourself, will that get me to where I want to go? And sometimes we need to pivot. So the strategy that you're looking at might not work in the market that you're used to. Well, we're not a tree. We can change, we can pivot, we can go, in a different direction. That's where, back to Brooke's question earlier, why do you have multiple, strategies on your resume? Well, it's because the markets have shifted. Whether it's interest rates, housing prices, inflation, et cetera, my personal circumstance. Well, I had the ability once I was educated to pivot to different strategies, to be able to complement the goal, to be able to transition the wife and I and, live life on our terms.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing and concluding as well. So Mo, I did recognize you turned your camera on now. Thank you.
Same barber as me. I like it.
I love it. You look like light bulb moment ideas. And, the whole point of me going through this is for you to think about where you are and where you want to be. And at least also give you a path to follow as well. So I love the questions because that means you've been thinking about it and you're thinking about it. You're asking about what the next step is to take. So that's why I started with asking you why you're here. If it's still not clear, and if you're thinking, okay, I showed you the chart earlier because I went back to it. You don't have to be in your market, and you don't have to stick to the only strategy you're aware of. Then what can you choose? Then the option is wide open for you. However, you do want to do it efficiently. That's why I showed you the chart. I showed you only 3 strategies quickly, just to give you an idea. There's more than one strategy out there, and what kind of cash flow, what kind of wealth building you can anticipate. So at least you can start to draw and start to plan out where you want to achieve. And thank you, everybody. I think we're right on time today. We're actually over time because of the questions. However, we did finish on time because I do respect your time. And I do thank you for being here. Every time I got the opportunity, I put it in my gratitude journal that it's a good day that I get to share. And I get to share it with Weddy, with Vince, with Mike on the team as well. So thank you, everybody. We do want to hear from you and hopefully see you in person as well. So take care.